Hey and welcome to this new YouTube video. Thanks for watching. In this video I'm going to talk about my story, how I transformed from being a binge drinking student to the person that I am today. In this video I hope to inspire you and I hope to tell you that the place where you're at right now does not have to determine where you end up at. If you are consistent, if you do the things that you know are right for you, you can completely change your life in a matter of months, in a matter of years. So first, let's go back to where it all started. I think a good place to start at is my junior years. So when I was, 12 or something, I went to high school here in the Netherlands. And I still remember I skipped a class. So I was 1 year younger than everyone in my class. And during my teenage years, I always felt less than other people because I was a year younger. And the crazy part was as well that I was very skinny. So when I was a child, I didn't eat anything. And literally when I was with my parents, we used to eat. So in the Netherlands, you eat like potatoes, some meat, and then some vegetables. So that's what they usually eat in the Netherlands. And I still remember that every night, there was only one thing I ate. It was either like potatoes, or it was a bit of vegetables, or it was a bit of meat. And that caused me to be very thin. And I think that also harmed my self-confidence. And it was even this bad that when I went to soccer practice, I had numerous times where I just had a lot of pain in my belly because I didn't eat enough. And that also caused me to eat a lot of bad foods. Because if you don't like to eat healthy foods, you still want to get your energy. So I ate a lot of candy. I still remember as a child, I went to the dentist and I had 6 cavities that I had to get fixed because I didn't brush my teeth and I just ate sugar all the time. I ate fries all the time, drank energy drinks. Like it was a crazy time. If you look at what I do now, teaching people about health, that was where I was. But that created me into a person that didn't really think highly of himself, that wasn't really confident. I was a very happy child. I was always with a group of people, but I was never really I didn't see myself as confident. I had a lot of social anxiety issues. Paired up with that, I think what most teenage boys struggle with currently, which no one talks about, is porn addiction. I was massively addicted to porn. I made another video about this on my YouTube channel about NoFap and why it's so important. But those things together, so me skipping a class being a year younger, me being very skinny, and me being addicted to porn and gaming, that caused me to, I think not be as happy. If I look at pictures of me as a child, as a younger child, I was always very happy, and I think that sort of died down when I was in high school. So that's basically where I was in high school, just to tell you that. And I had a great life. It's not that I struggled that much. I didn't get bullied or anything. But I do think that there were some parts of my life there that shaped me into the person that I am. And maybe it's something that you can resonate with as well. Then I went to university. So I finished my classes. I went to university. Then I turned 18. And that's another funny story. Here in the Netherlands, you can legally get weed if you're 18. So when I turned 18, I just became addicted to smoking weed. I still remember that I had a bong. This is something where you put weed in and you can just smoke it. How do you call it? You can smoke it pure. And then things really went the wrong way. Smoking not all day, but every night. And I was just completely stoned, had a lot of fights with my parents, and it just wasn't a good period. Then I switched my bachelor's. So first I studied public administration, then I went to Tilburg to study international business administration, and then in Tilburg things started to become better. So for example, I still didn't eat anything, but when I went to Tilburg, I went into a student house, and there I just had to eat what was on the table, and that made sure that I really started to understand that that I didn't like things. It was just something mental. Now I can almost like everything. Of course, there are some things I don't like tuna, for example. But in general, I like everything. And that's when things really started to change. That's also when my personal development journey started to come about. I think there was a time that I started going to the gym because I wasn't just happy with how I looked. Just for reference, I weighed 69 kilograms and I'm 193 meters tall. So that's like It's not underweight if you look at the BMI, but it was very lanky. Like my arms were so thin, it just wasn't normal. And when I went to university and I went to party more, that's when I really came to understand, like I really started to see myself as less, because I was thinner, I wasn't as social, I was still addicted to porn. And all of those things caused me to make the stance of like, hey, I need to change. And I think at the time, the change came from not being happy with myself. And that's what I also say to clients, like you should have the idea of like, hey, I'm already perfect. And that's why I want to change, because I know I can do way more. For me at the time, it was more like a negative thing. I couldn't talk to girls, I wasn't confident. So that's why I thought, hey, let's read a book. I read a book called Models by Mark Manson. It's a very good book about how to get into a relationship, how to date women in a very good way. It talks about how you can be a high value man. So for example, go to the gym, how to be more social, just like in general, how to be a high value man. That really changed my whole life, because that was the first time that I saw, hey, I can actually read a book, I can apply it to my life, and I can completely change my life, because something started to change there. I started going to the gym regularly. I started to eat a lot and I went from, I think, 69 kilos to 79 kilos in a very short time. So I was also quite fat in my cheeks, because I was just gaining a lot of fat. I was just massively bulking. But that sort of changed me. And it also made me show that, hey, I can actually change my life for the better. If I just set goals, if I am busy with that, then I can change something. And now what you do think is that from that time onwards, everything was perfect, but that's certainly not the case. From that time onwards, I had the idea of like, hey, I want to start a business. I want to do more with personal development, but I was still in an environment where everyone was binge drinking, everyone was doing drugs, smoking weed. And not to say that that I'm a victim of that. It's more to say that was my environment, and you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So that's really what caused me to keep on binge drinking. Like I had these goals, wanted to start a business, but I was just constantly having fun, binge drinking, going to parties. So it didn't really amount to anything. Until I started my web design business. I actually took the action. It was around my master's time. I started my web design business. I started to get some clients in that, and then things really started to roll from there. And that's when things really started to change. I started to hang out less with people that were also binge drinking, doing all of that stuff. And I started hanging out more with other entrepreneurs, being in communities, paid communities, where I got some new connections. And overall, I just really started to change my environment to suit the person that I wanted to be. And that from that moment onwards, things really started to change. But at the same time, I started web design, because now you might think, hey, you did web design, you're a performance coach now, right? At the same time, I had the idea of like, hey, I'm so busy with personal development. I have grown so much from doing this. Why can't I help others with that? So first I started to make a weekly email called Personal Growth Saturdays. It was just a weekly email where I shared books I read, articles I read, for example, talking about gratefulness, and I was just writing it for friends and family. I think in its peak, it had around 130, 140 subscribers. So I was quite happy with that, but there wasn't really a business model to it. But I still had the idea of like, hey, if I could do something with personal development, that would be absolutely insane. And then a few years ago, I think now it's 3 years ago, I stumbled upon the podcast Biohacking Talks by Govert and Eduard de Wilde. Eduard is the founder of Live Healthy, which is a Dutch web shop targeted for biohackers. And Govert is a Dutch Olympian, so he's been at the Olympics, and he also is a biohacking coach. So when I first found out about that podcast, I immediately listened to, I think, 20 episodes. Like I was so hooked in it, because for me, biohacking was sort of like all the things I was already busy with, the intersection between personal growth and health, and then packaged in a sort of science way. So not like, hey, set goals and you will achieve some things. No, but actually science-based things like, hey, if you put on blue light blocking glasses, you will increase your melatonin production and then you will sleep better. Stuff like that. That's where it really went on. And then I set the intention for myself to become a performance coach. That was around I think 2 years ago. That's when I actually got into performance coaching. I put it in a program I was already in. I got into contact with Eric Ilaya, which is another performance coach. I can link him here in the bio. He's helped me a ton with starting up my coaching business. I learned a ton from him about the actual performance, because like I had all these ideas in my mind of sleep and setting goals, but it wasn't really structured. And when I joined his program and I saw how his program was structured, I learned a lot from that, like how can you actually implement this for entrepreneurs? That's when things really started to change. I know this whole video has been kind of a ramble. I hope you enjoy it, but let's continue here. And the first few, I would say, months, things were really not that great. I wasn't getting any clients for my coaching business. I look back at it now, like it wasn't really weird. My content wasn't good. I didn't know what I was talking about. I didn't have the practice in sales. And that slowly transformed into where I am now. So I started to get the clients. This past June, I actually filled up my whole one-on-one. And that's when I started to focus more on a community. And that's what the Spectrum community is right now, which I referenced in the live update video. And now I'm working together with Jorn and Jamar. We're working on P Club, and we're focused on 6 and 7 figure entrepreneurs and scaling their business through scaling themselves. So you have to see yourselves as a car, and if that car can go faster, then your business can go faster as well. That's what we're doing at P Club, and that's what I'm doing now. But you just have to remember, I think Can't Hurt Me from David Goggins is a very good book for that. And it's way more insane than what I've been telling about here, right? But for him, it's as well. Maybe now you can look at me and you think like, hey, he's a performance coach, he's impacting a lot of people, stuff like that. But just know that we all start somewhere, right? If I look back at it 5 years ago, if I look at the community I have with Spectrum right now, and the people we're impacting with P Club right now, I couldn't believe that. And the only way that I got there was by consistently working on myself, consistently improving myself, improving my health, doing tests, and the biggest thing, investing in myself. I think now to date, when I was making this video, I saw like what I invested into myself up until now. I think it's over 40K that I invested into myself. And that's not to say that that everyone should do that, but it just means that you should find yourself worthy to invest in yourself. And if you really want to do something, go find someone that is doing what you want to do and learn from them. It's the easiest, like there are no shortcuts in life, but that's the easiest shortcut that you can actually have. Yeah, so that's basically it. That's the story I wanted to share about my story, how I came up to where I'm at right now. I hope this was valuable to you. I think it wasn't as structured as I wanted to be, but I still hope that you got something out of it. If you are interested in knowing more about what we do at P Club, just send me a message. Honestly, if I look back at 3 years ago, it's the exact product I wanted to have. For example, we set up all the routines. We test everything based on data. So for example, do an intolerance test, do a DNA test to find out what is actually good for you. And then you know what is good for your body, for your needs. And it's something I don't see in the market right now. That's basically the video. I hope you enjoyed and see you in the next one.